China's economy is in bigger trouble than ever. U.S. charities are caught sending millions to China, and the Chinese military says it has a new hypersonic bullet that can hit an aircraft carrier at 5,000 miles an hour. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Are you an experienced journalist? Do you know lots and lots about China? Would you like to write for China Uncensored? Because we're hiring. More info is in the link down below, or stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you more. Well, China's economy is slowly burning to the ground. It's not nearly as delicious as other things that slowly burn, like a smoked brisket. Unless, of course, you enjoy schadenfreude, in which case China's slowly burning down is finger-licking good. China's residential foreclosures increased by 43% last year. There are a number of reasons for this. One is Chinese real estate prices are way overinflated. Basically, the cost of housing compared to people's income is through the roof. Now, you might think homes are unaffordable where you live, but try China. Its ratio of property price to average income is triple that of most major Western countries. And if you think your HOA is bad, at least they don't disappear you for not following the rules. The Chinese real estate market has made me defend HOAs. That's how bad it is. By the way, this is not caused by China having too many people. It's caused by bad government policies, including policies that encourage greedy local officials to sell off real estate at inflated prices to developers who then pass those costs on to the homeowners. The second reason for all the foreclosures is that a lot of people who had enough income for a mortgage when they bought their home no longer have enough income. That's a reflection of just how bad China's job market is. Wages are down, and youth unemployment is so high that the government just stopped releasing the data. That's like no longer stepping on your bathroom scale. By ignoring the data, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, assuming you don't lose it first to diabetes. Then it brought back the data with a new and improved optimized formula that the CCP says is way more accurate. Yeah, I'm sure. That's like stepping on a scale that's set to weigh you at 20 pounds lighter. Sure, it makes you feel better, but that foot is still at risk. So there's big problems in China's real estate market, but it gets worse. Because China's stock markets are also in trouble. In fact, Chinese stocks are having their worst start to a year since 2016. And many of you are probably thinking, well, that's not so bad. 2016 was only 4 years ago. No, it was 8 years ago, I know. The inexorable march of time will pulverize us all to dust. And that's somehow a less grim fate than the Chinese stock market. Chinese stocks have erased more than $6 trillion since their peak in 2021. So I'll repeat what I've been saying for a long time now. Investing in China is not a good idea. Baby cribs made of frozen gasoline are a better investment, because those would actually take longer to go up in flames. But don't worry, the Chinese Communist Party has solutions to all your market woes. Are China's big investors freaked out and selling off stocks too fast? There's a fix for that. The party can just tell them they're not allowed to sell. This artificially stops the market from operating normally, though. And the consequences is that traders are saying it undermines confidence in the market, which long-term makes the market decline even more. In other words, it's the opposite of what the party intended, which isn't surprising since they're about as effective at inspiring confidence as a shop teacher missing a finger. I bet that guy gets hit on all the time since women don't see him wearing a ring. But to fix that problem they caused, the party has another solution. They decided to make banks lend out more money to stimulate economic growth. In a free market, lending is a decision made by individual banks based on market conditions. But a new Chinese policy change is trying to fix that. The Communist Party has lowered the reserve requirement, which means they're telling banks they don't have to keep as much of their depositors' money on hand. That way, the banks can lend out more, and they had better. Now you might think, what if people want to get their money out, and the banks don't have enough cash anymore? Don't worry, the party can solve that too, just like they did in Henan province in 2022. People made a run on the banks. The banks couldn't pay out. People protested, so the Communist Party sent in the tanks. Ah yes, the old bank-to-tank economic policy, a classic. And it was effective. The protests miraculously disappeared. And just like that, the problem was solved. So this new lower reserve requirement for banks, nothing to worry about. Still, All these economic problems have caused the Chinese yuan to start to lose value. But there's a fix for that too. Is it just me, or is it starting to sound like China is a sinking ship and new leaks keep springing up quicker than they can plug them? I'm just kidding. China isn't starting to sound like a sinking ship. They've actually been one for years. The Communist Party is telling state-owned banks to sell off more of their U.S. Treasury holdings. This boosts the value of the yuan, at least compared to the U.S. dollar. They've been doing this on and off for the past year. 12 months ago, China held over $1 trillion of U.S. debt. Now they hold only about $860 billion. None of these things will actually solve any of China's fundamental economic problems, of course. It's kind of like taking a high-angle selfie. You didn't suddenly get better looking, it's just a flattering angle. So China's not solving their problems, they're just catfishing the world. To illustrate the situation, here's an actual photo of the Communist Party's economic policy. And after the break, U.S. charities have been sending millions of dollars to China and have finally been caught out. Welcome back. China is facing more than economic tragedy this week. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck western China in Xinjiang. Officially, 3 people were killed, which is tragic, but still less than the number of political prisoners in Xinjiang killed every single day for their organs. So there's always a silver lining. Except in Xinjiang, where silver is just the color of the scalpels used to harvest organs. If that's not uplifting, neither is this. A big landslide in southwest China this week killed at least 8 people, officially. Making the problem worse is that the region is very poor and the winter is freezing. Not a great time to lose your house, especially since, as I've discussed, the Chinese housing market is currently about as stable as the Xinjiang ground during that earthquake. But to save the day, Xi Jinping has ordered an all-out rescue in the area. That, of course, only applies in areas where state-run media are taking photos of the rescue efforts. But I mean, to be fair, they're also rescuing people far away from cameras in western China. They're rescuing their organs from their body and delivering them to rich patients far away. How nice. Speaking of which, the European Parliament has issued a resolution condemning China for persecuting Falun Gong, Uyghurs, and other minorities, and the resolution also condemns China's forced organ harvesting. A parliament resolution, of course, is not going to make the Chinese Communist Party suddenly change their behavior. If only. Darn, we wasted so much time on sanctions and military intervention when all we had to do was pass a resolution. But once it's enshrined in a resolution that people in China are killed for their organs, that sets a legal precedent, a baseline, and it could slowly trickle down to smaller policy changes. Like, let's say a country wants to stop certain exports to China for national security reasons. As an excuse, now they can say, well, it's because of China's organ harvesting thing, and we have a resolution to prove it. Never underestimate the power of political bureaucracy. It's more terrifying than I ever knew. Speaking of which, Canada has named more than 100 foreign research institutions that pose a threat to national security. The vast majority are Chinese. And the Canadian government is cracking down. Or they will be soon, sort of. They're telling Canadian schools and research groups studying advanced technology that if they want to get federal grant money from now on, they have to promise they're not working with any of those listed foreign institutions. So Canadian entities can still do research funded by the Chinese Communist Party, as long as they can go without getting any Canadian government money. I wonder how many of them will just decide to take only Chinese money now. Because for some reason, that's technically legal. It's like those parents that say, if you're gonna party, party here so that I know you're safe. Only instead they say, party wherever you want, I just don't want to pay for it. Speaking of shocking policies, major liberal charities in the US have been funneling millions of dollars into China. Oh, to help all the people oppressed by the Chinese government? Nope, they're funneling it straight into the arms of the Chinese government because the CCP needs charity more than anyone. According to tax disclosures, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, the Ford Foundation, and the MacArthur Foundation together donated about $10.2 million directly to the Chinese government and to organizations headed by top-ranking CCP members. Some of that money went to Chinese universities that directly work with the People's Liberation Army. So why are Americans funding this? Well, for one, it's technically legal. Business's favorite type of legal. And let's not forget about the sweet, sweet tax write-offs. And after the break, the US-China relationship is changing, and the prospects are bleak. Welcome back. According to Business Insider, 25 experts calculated the scenarios they think could play out in the US-China relationship, and all the results are bleak. Here are the possible scenarios those experts listed. 1. Both countries slowly decouple their economies. Not so bad, actually. 2. Both parties refuse to cooperate. I mean, that's still better than giving them our money. 3. Both countries rule separate blocks of the world. Okay, that's less good. And 4. All-out war. Yeah, that's bleak. And that's it. None of those experts suggested things that could go back to the rosy times of the early 2000s, when US presidents could openly be friends with Chinese dictators, and Wall Street let Chinese state-owned companies ring the opening bell. All while completely ignoring how, the Chinese Communist Party was killing people for their organs. I guess now that genie's out of the bottle. Or more specifically, that genie's liver is out of the genie that's out of the bottle. At least Australia is wising up to China. Sort of. The Australian government has axed its golden visa scheme for wealthy investors, 85% of whom were Chinese. Wait, wealthy people were getting special privileges? Since when has that been a thing? What's that, Shelley? Since time immemorial? Don't know how I missed that. Thousands of Chinese investors have been granted a significant investor visa since Australia started the program in 2012. But critics have said the scheme was being used by corrupt officials to park illicit funds. Rich Chinese people moving billions of dollars into Australia? No. That doesn't sound at all like rats fleeing a sinking ship with new leaks that keep springing up quicker than they can plug them. If China and the West do go to war, the Chinese Navy has a new leg up. Chinese scientists say they have just brought the US Navy's dream bullet to life. While China claims they totally didn't steal this technology from anyone, it's worth noting that the US Navy started working on this program in 2012, but a few years ago it seems they gave up. The Chinese military didn't because, as Xi always says, some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. China's new hypersonic shell, propelled by a formidable electromagnetic gun, soars through the sky at a staggering speed of Mach 7. It can stably receive signals from the Beidou satellite navigation system and maintain an error of less than 49 feet when it hits the target, which is plenty accurate to take out, say, a US aircraft carrier or a Taiwanese military base. The faster a shell travels, the harder it is to stop. But the good news is, if China does decide to attack, their weapons will have been made in China. Speaking of made in China, the Qingdao-Yinchuan Expressway has started a new program designed to keep sleepy drivers awake at night. It involves shining lasers at them. How fun! Drivers can pretend they're playing Mario Kart. Of course, some party poopers out there have warned that this might not be such a great idea. Netizens said drivers would likely find the laser lights distracting and disorienting, thereby exposing them to greater danger instead. But hey, you can't fall asleep while having an epileptic seizure. And even if these laser beams disorient you and make you drive off the road, a Goomba riding a cloud will drop you back into place. Or you'll just slowly burn, like every other part of China is burning, like a delicious schadenfreude brisket. Yum! And as I mentioned earlier, China Uncensored is looking to hire another writer. I need help to keep making great episodes like this 4 times a week. I know some of you fans out there are experienced journalists looking for a better job than at some giant media conglomerate. Well, look no further. For a little bit less money and a whole lot more fun, you can work for us instead. Go to ChinaUncensored.tv/jobs or click the link below to learn more. The deadline to apply is February 15th, 2024. And since YouTube doesn't like me talking about topics the algorithm considers too sensitive, I've been hiding these conversations in video games on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Help me beat the algorithm by clicking on this video and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.